So when you think about social media, it's a huge problem for brands, right? Because we haven't even, as long as it's been around, cracked this advertising effectiveness thing. We're still trying to figure out if TV commercials work. We're still trying to figure out what kind of media buying strategies work. We're still trying to figure out what makes a good TV commercial a good TV commercial. One of the challenges with this is what Josh will talk about. There's kind of two spectrums of this.
First and foremost, brands get scared because we're told that to do this effectively, it's a tech problem, and you need a room full of brilliant young kids with tons of monitors, with lots of graphs and lots of charts, and it's a tech problem, and it's a very expensive tech problem to fix. The next kind of scary part that makes it really hard to get into is when you mess up, there's no taking it back. When you mess up, the whole world knows, you can't erase that screw up, and your screw up then is remixed by thousands and thousands of people, and it's viewed by millions upon millions of people. And
the challenge is that when brands think about how they're going to go be social, this is the kind of thing that they do. So they'll go on Facebook, and no disrespect if you're from Oreo here, but you put something up on Facebook that's essentially a broadcast message. Hey, I'm Oreo Cookies, would you click like on my page, which again helps me broadcast my message further, and that's kind of it. No response, no thank you. So then we get to this example, and they talked about the Old Spice thing, and make no mistake, this is traditional advertising at its best, despite the fact that it's shown on YouTube doesn't make it social. It was a challenge that was handed to Josh and I was, how do we start to make this thing more social? So we've got a team of really, really smart people who came up with something really smart, is let's just take this same person and have him communicate on a one-to-one basis on YouTube. If you don't know the story, the Old Spice guy, who is well-loved, spent 2 whole days creating YouTube videos for individual people. The idea that this was one-to-one is what made it interesting. And the idea that the Old Spice guy would come off of this big brand mountain and talk to you and engage with you then led communities to start creating for the Old Spice guy. So we did some really specific things with a couple of online communities alongside of this in terms of talking specific to them, and generated a ton of stuff from it. Played a little bit of Reddit and Dig off of each other at the time. So when Reddit and Dig were kind of competing to be that #1 news aggregation site, and Dig was going through a redesign. So there was a lot of people kind of watching that. These two sites also move tons of traffic around on the internet, but they also have a specific language. When you go into Reddit to talk to Reddit, you do what's called a timestamp. You hold up a piece of paper, take a picture of yourself, it says, "Hi Reddit," and it has the date on that piece of paper. So we had the Old Spice guy start his morning by doing a timestamp on Reddit. So he's going into these communities that, again, by kind of classic advertising definition, are not huge communities. He's speaking their language and engaging them in conversation. What does that inspire them to do? It inspired him to do all kinds of interesting things. So we had fans go off and create an Old Spice voicemail generator for us, so a tool consumers could use to have the Old Spice guy actually be their voicemail message, right? Because if you're out there trying to have all those one-to-one conversations, you're not going to be able to do it. But if you inspire this community, or you inspire a group of people by speaking their language, they will go out and speak on your behalf. So the classic advertising model, right? You take your budget, you take 80% of it. That's what you're going to spend paying for distribution. So you're going to spend paying for media. You spend 20% of that budget actually making the thing that you're going to distribute. That model is in constant flux. And on all of those things, I can tell you that the distribution of dollars was nowhere close to that. So we spent a lot more money making things for these smaller groups and keeping those groups entertained than we did paying for media distribution. But in the end, what we got out of that is pretty similar numbers in media distribution. We also got a heck of a lot more passionate fan base out of it. So rather than just a flyby bus ad or a television commercial, you now have this community that thinks you listen to them and thinks you care. And hopefully you do if you're doing this stuff.